Welcome everyone to the Gavel. I am Terry Ikumi. On the program today, we begin with the Senate. In an attempt to resolve the significant number of out-of-school children, the Senate is proposing a national summit. The resolution was taken during plenary after the submission of the report of the Committee on Basic and Secondary Education on the compelling need to tackle the challenge of out-of-school children in the country. Also, the Senate House began investigations into recent allegations of drug abuse leveled against the Deputy Senate Leader, Senator Ashiru Oyelola, by the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency and the NDLEA. Take a listen.
The Senate began investigations into recent allegations of drug abuse leveled against the Deputy Senate Leader, Senator Ashiru Oyelola, representing Kwara South by the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency. The President of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, subsequently announced the setting up of a 6-man ad hoc committee to invite those involved in the accusation by the NDLEA to clarify the allegations. The resolution was adopted after the upper chamber dissolved into a closed-door session to discuss the matter. It would be recalled that the NDLEA had days ago alleged that Senator Ashiru's house in Ilorin, Kwara State was raided and illicit drugs were found. The accusation followed contributions by Senator Ashiru on the floor of the Senate on October 15th during a debate on the bill to establish the National Institute for Drug Awareness and Rehabilitation. The senator had described the NDLEA as a corrupt and compromised agency. Senator Ashiru, who during plenary came under Order 42, raised as malicious and unfounded impressions created by the NDLEA on its press statement issued on October 21st, describing it as an act of witch hunting. He notes that the agency's actions deliberately singled him out for personal attacks and impugned his privilege as a senator to freely contribute to debates on the floor of the Senate.
These allegations are malicious, an attempt to undermine my credibility as a senator and impede my ability to freely participate in parliamentary debates. I'm 68 years now. I assert that I cannot even identify what we call cannabis or any drug. Beyond taking water, I don't take alcohol, I don't take any drug. I don't even take carbonated drinks.
Dear colleagues, we must take this issue very seriously because injury to one is injury to all. And we must call this agency to order. So it is my personal view that we should immediately set up an ad hoc committee to invite the NDLEA and the rest of them, all those involved, to come and justify the allegations against Senator Ashiru, failing which the Senate will take very drastic actions. Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
As lawmakers reconvene on the third day of plenary for the week, a letter from President Bola Tinubu is read on the floor of the upper chamber.
Request for confirmation of ministerial nominees. I am pleased to forward to the Senate the underlisted 7 nominees for confirmation as ministers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The request, which comes barely 24 hours after their nominations, is referred to the Committee of the Whole for legislative action as soon as possible. Meanwhile, against the backdrop of the newly created Ministry of Regional Development, the Senate has begun crucial amendments to the Zonal Development Commissions. During a clause-to-clause consideration of the South-South Development Commission Establishment Bill, a slight ruckus, however, ensued. The committee had recommended that 15% of statutory allocations accruing to member states from consolidated revenue account be used to fund the commissions.
I'm not denigrating the need for this commission. Let them go there, but we should know it, that in the long run, some of these states, maybe not now, are likely going to go to court to challenge the seizure of their money.
What is being said here is that the equivalence of money going to each state, 15% or will not be put together not the money itself.
This action is eventually put to a voice vote and the 15% deduction is approved.
The ayes have it.
The upper chamber also struck out some worrisome provisions of Section 23 of the Establishment Bills conferring operational immunity on board and executives of the Commission.
The aggregated bills taken by this August Assembly be read a third time.
The bill's scales third reading and are passed. The protracted crisis in the number of out-of-school children became the predominant subject for conversation on the second legislative day of the week. Submitting a report on the compelling need to tackle the growing syndrome of out-of-school children, which is particularly prevalent in northern Nigeria, Senator Usman Adamu opened the debate on the matter.
Out-of-school children is a national phenomenon, especially with the viewed form of insecurity, kidnapping, and banditry all over the country. Number and status of which varies from state to state, but the focus on tackling it over the years has been in a few states. There has not been synergy or roadmap with the state government on out-of-school children.
I believe that the Federal Ministry of Education in Nigeria has no national policy on out-of-school children. Mr. President, the National Council on Education must have a clearly spelled out national policy on out-of-school children. We have 20 million out-of-school children, and in fact, could be more. And this is a huge challenge to not only our educational sector, but our national security.
Coming as a former governor, I think it is from the states. I say this because of out of experience, sir. Federal government have done everything, a lot. They have done a lot. When we attempted Al-Majiri school, taking back children, compulsorily forcing them to go to school, it ended with a religious dimension and it died down. They are back to Al-Majiri streets.
After nearly 2 hours, the debate became even more robust as more lawmakers appeared determined for a solution.
My suggestion will be, with all due respect, that at this point, we call for a summit. And let us meet, facilitated by you and Mr. President, after you have briefed him. And then let the stakeholders meet and look at all those issues.
We are not looking at one important areas, which all of us should ask questions about, which is at the subnational level. There are a lot of effort. For instance, the universal basic education, which you've just mentioned. Mr. President, the rule about the universal basic education is that the government will provide certain part of the fund, while the state government will complement. But we have billions of naira lying fallow at the universal basic education.
We are leaders, but we every day stand to pay lip services to these issues. When funds are appropriated, when state governments are asked to give their counterpart, or when federal governments or World Bank, why should we even be taking money from World Bank to fund our primary education in this country? We embezzle the money.
This is not the first time the National Assembly is making a relentless push to ameliorate an existential crisis. In 2022, the House of Representatives held a similar summit towards revamping the education sector. This time, the upper chamber resolves to adopt the same solution.
Now, in the House of Representatives, lawmakers on Tuesday once again resolved to probe the power sector due to the recurring grid collapse. Also, a motion of urgent national importance on the need for further sensitization by the central bank as the deadline of the legality of the old Naira note approaches was taken and adopted. Here's a detailed report. Lawmakers in the House of Representatives on Tuesday called for accountability from the power sector due to the incessant grid collapse.
That the entire states in the northeast, northwest, and some part of the north central zones has been thrown into darkness over the last 2 days in what the transmission company of Nigeria, TCN, described as faulty transmission lines. To mandate the House Committee on Power to investigate this unending power grid collapse, and the House Legislative Committee on Compliance to ensure compliance.
Another issue on the front burner was a proposed amendment to the Constitution to provide for an increment in the distribution of revenue from natural resources among the tiers of government.
It will discourage states from overdependence on the federal allocation that comes to their states. And Mr. Speaker, as you all know, there are processes ongoing that many of the laws we find in the exclusive list. There's been an agitation that they should also be moved to the congruent list where states can have equal right. For example, Mr. Speaker, the issue of correctional centers where states can also build and also take responsibility to renovate, which hitherto has been the responsibility of the federal government.
A bill for an act to amend the Agricultural Research Council Act to establish Sugarcane Research Center in Kaduna State also scaled second reading.
A bill to an act to provide the establishment of the Sugarcane Research Institute, Makarfi, and to provide for the matter connected therewith.
The Deputy Speaker presided over the final plenary session of the week in the House of Representatives. A motion of urgent national importance on the need for a further sensitization by the central bank as the deadline for the legality of the old Naira note approaches was taken and adopted without a debate.
Urge the Central Bank of Nigeria to issue more new 200, 500, and 1,000 Naira notes and begin the gradual withdrawal of the old notes from circulation before the deadline of December 31st, 2024. 2. Urge the Central Bank of Nigeria to order commercial banks to forthwith stop cash payments to their customers with old 200, 500, and 1,000 Naira notes, but instead engage in mopping up of the old notes.
Attention then turned to a bill for expansion of the Islamic law in the Constitution, scheduled for second reading.
What I'm requiring is the removal of personal in Section 24 of the Constitution, Section 262, Section 277, and Section 288, so that other relevant laws, like the public, the commercial law, Islamic commercial law, the Islamic company law, the Islamic international law can have a place in the Constitution.
Lawmakers calmly argued for and against the sensitive bill.
This is a very welcome development that it will give even an economic leeway for the nation to see the goodness of such practices in our financial institution to get the backup of the law.
The section you're referring to, if it is removed, the word personal is removed. The implication immediately is that Islamic law will now have a general application with respect to criminal law across the country. The word personal there was put for a purpose. So if you remove it, that's the implication.
Mr. Speaker, we have to be very, very cautious of whatever we do to alter the Nigerian constitution in a manner that will further widen the divide that we have as a country. And in any case, Mr. Speaker, like my previous colleague said, the matters which my colleague seek to address by this proposal is already covered by our existing laws.
Because of the sensitive nature of this bill, my appeal is for us to step it down and let us have a full house and full time to discuss this bill.
The Deputy Speaker gently but firmly approached the matter before putting it to vote.
It is our rule here that issues like this, we must have copies we look at. And if the copies are not there, we take another step. But I won't be taking that step from this chair. It will come from the House. So if the majority of the people say they don't have copies of this bill, whether it is good or bad, you don't have the copies, you need to have the copies for us to deliberate on it. Those in support that if you step down, say aye. Aye. Those against, say nay. The nays have it.
In the meantime, a bill to amend the Tertiary Education Trust Fund Act 2011 to provide for additional conditions for assessing the funds for capital projects by beneficiary institutions has scaled second reading in the House of Representatives. Well, welcome back to the Gavel. On the breakdown, the Policy and Legal Advocacy Center focuses on the justice delivery system and the investigation of the House of Reps to speed up the process.
I think it's commendable to see the National Assembly decide to investigate the issue of justice delay. And, justice delay here is not just criminal justice delay, it's also civil. Some civil litigations have been in court for no less than 30 years as we speak. Persons are held in prisons. This is on the criminal side. Some have been held in prison, and this didn't start today. That was what motivated the start of the human rights movement in this country. And I remember that my first involvement in creating the idea of the first human rights group in this country in 1987 was inspired by the long delays. People being held in prison 15 years, 18 years awaiting trial. So you really need to be able to find a way to deal with this. And I know that efforts have been made in the past to deal with this, and that's why I commend the National Assembly for deciding that it's worthy of engaging in. There are different factors: the police factor, the criminal investigation factor, the courts themselves, the corruption in the judiciary, lawyers themselves who see that the system allows them to delay justice. All of these are issues that we need to look at. And I'm happy that even within the judiciary, those are major concerns. And we do have a new Chief Justice in the country, whom we hope comes with a mission to help to find solution to the question of litigation in the courts. And if that is her only legacy at the end of the day, then it's a legacy that she will be very proud of, and we will all be very much in support of that effort. I think that if we have a Chief Justice, as we do have now, who decides that boosting citizens' confidence in the judiciary is a major direction for her, then we would see that the judiciary itself will, of its own motion, engage the National Assembly, identify the problems that the judiciary faces, take these problems to the National Assembly to find a solution. We do have, for instance, the National Assembly now agreeing to huge increase in the salaries of judges. But it shouldn't really just be the pay of judges. It should also be what is it that hinders judges from delivering justice fast enough? What is it that delays judges in hearing cases? What is it that judges need to be able to deal with to get those who are prosecuting cases to do so diligently? What is it that judges can do to get lawyers who are handling cases in their courts to be very mindful of respecting time and timelines? So I think that it will be important that we do have a Chief Justice who is much more aggressive in pursuing reforms with the legislature. So it's not just talking. It should be that you as Chief Justice, you are able to internally identify what the problems of the judiciary is, what problems it's confronted with, and deal with it. And I do believe that this Chief Justice would have the minds to do so. There are laws and practices that enable chief judges, even of states, to go around police cells, go around prisons, and examine the case of everybody who is in detention, and go into the deepness of the cells themselves and interview persons who are held inside the cells rather than those who are brought out to them, to ask why they are there. I think that this practice needs to be intensified. The economic situation in the country means that you will have much more instances of citizens being arbitrarily arrested because of the levels of corruption, but also really because of the poverty levels, that you would have more crimes committed or more people accused of committing crimes. So I think the importance of using the tool of visit to detention facilities by the chief judge, by judges appointed to that position or role should be intensified.
On Constituency Focus this week, we had a chat with Honorable Ahmed Jaha, who represents Dambo Agwoza Chibok Federal Constituency, to find out how he intends to engage with members of his constituency over the years and how he intends to meet these needs.
My constituency's needs, as far as today is concerned, is the issue of return of peace and absolute security, if I can put it this way, in our various communities. I did so many motions. I contributed in so many discussions with the service chiefs and other related agents of cohesion all over the country to make sure that peace is returned to my constituency, because my constituency is the worst hit constituency as far as the insurgency is concerned in the Northeast. And in my own little way, to cushion the effect of the insurgency and to encourage people to go back to their various villages, particularly where there are relative peace, we embarked on schools development. Particularly, I built about 6 blocks of classrooms, if I can put it this way. I built 1 block of 3 classrooms in Damboa. I built another 1 block of 3 classrooms in Bokura, Chibok. I built another 1 block of classrooms in Garu, Chibok. I built a block of 3 classrooms, office and store in Goza. And I equally built a block of 3 classrooms in another ward in Chibok called Kumurumbula. Then in the areas of health services or healthcare delivery, I was able to build 3 maternity homes, well equipped with an ambulance attached to each of the 3 maternity centers, 1 in Chibok, 1 in Damboa, 1 in Goza. When the removal of subsidy was announced by the president in Eagle Square, barely less than a month, I went to my constituency and distributed money for people to go and buy food, because the hardship is too much. In fact, you don't need a soothsayer to tell you that people are not happy or people are hungry. You can vividly see on their faces. So I had to use that opportunity to go and see them, distribute wrappers to the women and some cash, and distribute cash to some household, heads of householders across my constituency. In fact, I spent about 3 days in my constituency doing that. I started with Goza and I moved to Chibok. Then the following day, I went to Damboa, where I concluded. So in addition to what the state government is doing and the federal government is doing, then as a member representing this constituency, I feel I have a moral obligation to be there for my people. It's going to be a continuous something. My target between 2023 to 2027 is for my community to have absolute peace. It's for my people to go back to their various communities. They should pick the pieces of their lives and forge ahead. That is my target. And for me to achieve this, I need a lot of work to do, particularly in the area of security provision. I must make sure that all my discussions, my motions, and everything I can do must be security related, so that people can have peace, because if there is no peace, there is no way you can have development.
Well, that's all the time we have on the Gavel today. Thanks for your time. I'm Terry Ikumi. Goodbye.